Swinging can reinvigorate your relationship. It can also trick you into thinking the grass is greener. Today, we're talking about new relationship energy, or NRE. Are you addicted to it, or are you afraid of it?
Welcome to Swinger University. I'm Ed.
And I'm Phoebe. Today, we're talking about NRE, or new relationship energy.
All right, so first, let's kind of define what NRE is. For those who do not know what it is, or you haven't dated in a long time, it's a term talking about those intense feelings of excitement, attraction, and euphoria that people experience at the beginning of a new relationship, or even a connection with people. So you talk to that hot person at the bar, and all of a sudden you start to get the butterflies in your stomach, and the feels start to happen.
Oh God, the feels. You also really want to spend more time with them. And there's some science behind this, right? A lot of this, primarily, it is hormones, right? It's your dopamine, your oxytocin, and your
norepinephrine.
Because I can't say that word, and Ed had to say it.
I always get the big complicated Latin words.
That's right. So that gives you that, like Ed said, sense of euphoria and a massive chemical rush.
Yeah, and we've experienced it anytime we've gone to some big social event or party, and we've really connected with that new couple. You do get that like instant attraction kind of a thing, and you're like, ooh, this is fun. Kind of that chase, the hunt. And the more you talk to people and the more you bond with them, those hormones start reproducing, and you start having those hormones produced in your brain more and more often. So you do start to build that chemical bond to that other person.
Right. So everyone knows this from when they were dating their partner or many partners. And it can last from anywhere 6 months to about 2 years. Ours lasted about 2 years, I think. But we were also swinging while we were during this whole time. So we were just like supercharged.
Yeah, we've kind of had this like afterburner effect for most of our relationship, because we had that initial, like, we were hot for each other, just it happened, and then swinging at the same time. So we would get an additional lift with more hormones. Mm-hmm. And I think our brains didn't really separate the difference between who was inspiring the hormones. It was just great.
I know. It's awesome. So when you find yourself in a long-term relationship after NRE energy dissipates, because it does, you get used to being around one another, right? You getting that back means you need to reintroduce some of the novelty back into your relationship. Activities, gestures, and places. You're having quality time again, or seeking out quality time. This is going somewhere, so
right.
Bear with me. You start reintroducing date nights, right?
Yeah. Most experts say that you really do need to set aside time for your own relationship and kind of pretend like you're dating again, right? And kind of reintroduce those patterns. And another thing that we've talked about recently, the two of us, especially with places and activities, is this concept of dishabituation. So you get into this habit of doing the same things every day, and you do the same things with your partner all the time. And it's the rut, right? Like, it's a different way of describing what that rut is.
Right.
And
yes.
Just breaking out of that normal pattern of activity or behavior is sometimes enough to kind of break those feelings apart and reinvigorate things.
Right. So staying curious and communicating with one another, maybe some deeper communication, ask some interesting questions, ask some random questions. I've been asking you random questions lately over the last 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
Which have been kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just out of the blue. And be vulnerable. Most people are with their partner, especially when they've been with them 20, 30 years, but it's sparking those deeper conversations or things that you haven't ever talked about and making sure you're appreciating your partner.
Yeah, that gets hard sometimes.
Bringing them flowers, sleeping on their side of the bed for the first 5 minutes of the evening to warm it up.
You can tell it's flannel time. So yeah, I've been pre-warming the bed.
Yes. And making new couple friends. Right, to bring some energy back, some spark. So all of this also sounds like swinging.
Right.
So the same rules for bringing back NRE to your long-term relationship is the same thing it happens when you're swinging.
Yep, absolutely.
All of that, the novelty of it, the quality time with your own partner, staying curious, communicating, being vulnerable, sparking communication, appreciating your partner, reconnecting, reclaiming, and making new couple friends. I was like, okay, this is all the same stuff.
So Cosmo should just say, if you want to keep your relationship fresh, start swinging.
Right?
Right.
Yes.
Now, there's kind of we're talking about the cheery side of it and how to reinvigorate those emotions. But as we kind of alluded to at the intro, sparking NRE, especially in a swinging situation, can kind of confuse you as to where those feelings are coming from.
Oh, heck yeah.
So now we're talking about external relationships outside your primary relationship or your main partner. And now we're going to start talking about some of the fears of NRE and what that can do.
Right. So for us, we kept other couples at an arm's length, right? Because we were new. We started swinging while we were new, before we were married to each other. And so other couples getting close to us was too threatening for me. It felt threatening for me. So I didn't want any one of us getting the feels with another couple.
Right.
Now we're 10, 11, 12 years in, and we want those deeper connections. We want a little more intimacy. We're not looking to be polyamorous, but we want deeper, richer connections.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it really came out through keeping all the relationships very casual. So that arm's distance was basically, like we talked about in our last episode, a lot of DTF stuff. So we would show up at an event, we would meet couples, and if we had any kind of interest in them and they were attractive to us, they were sexy, then we'd just kind of take them to a playroom and play with them for a little bit, and then we'd be like, bye-bye, see you later. And that was it. That was the whole thing.
Right. And we would see them at the next house party and at the next event. It's a small community, so we would always see them. We just never did anything outside of the party. It had a very specific confines, right? We only met them at parties, and that's what that was.
And it was a really shallow depth too. Like we didn't get much deeper than, hey, how you doing? Good to see you again. Like we talk about things, but it wasn't like, how are you feeling? Like we didn't talk about stuff like that. It was just,
we really didn't know a whole lot about them either, because we were also really afraid to ask too many important questions, because we were always told, it's secretive. No one wants to be outed. You don't share your profession. You don't talk about your family. You don't talk about politics. It's like, good grief, what the heck am I supposed to talk about? There really wasn't left anything.
Right. And then the other rule of like, keep it sexy. You don't talk about, you don't talk about the kids. You don't talk about the family. You don't talk about that kind of stuff, because it's not sexy. So
you had enough communication to know them well enough to drag them into the bedroom.
So at what point did we start experiencing some of this NRE feels going on.
So we're gonna get there. Okay, so we're years into our experience, and just what was it, last year?
Yeah, just this last year.
So we're 12 years in by now, and we decided, let's try a single male. And that primarily was sparked because I had started up an OnlyFans account and people wanted to see a third. And I said, well, that's something I hadn't considered. And so I thought, well, let's have a conversation. Let's give it a shot. See what that looks like. Now, we've had single males in an orgy situation or at a party.
Right.
But we've never sought one out, had them over, had an experience. This was a very active thing that we were doing.
Yeah, very specific. In the OnlyFans thing really did kind of kick that off as a conversation starter, but we set up a date with one gentleman and you were attracted to him. So it was fun and exciting, and he was really attracted to you. So he was sending you, all of the energy right at you.
Right.
And that date went really well. We didn't end up bringing him home, but we ended up with you two kind of making out right there in the bar.
Yeah.
And
restaurant bar, yeah.
It was hot. It was a lot of fun. He was really excited about the whole thing. Like you could tell he was just like, oh my God.
He could barely contain himself. He was literally shaking from the energy. The hormones and energy was just coursing through his hands, and he was just shivering. In fact, his hands were cold.
Right.
Because that's how nervous he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was awesome.
And how were you feeling about that whole thing?
Very powerful. I have control.
You did. You had that guy wrapped around your something.
It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. It was exciting.
You were definitely pushing like all of his buttons.
I know. It was neat.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a nice way. I'm not like, evil, but it was.
No, it's sexy. It's hot, right? Like you get to experience that, like, ooh, somebody's attracted to me thing. And when we were first dating, you had been dating for a period of time. You were out of your divorce and you were basically playing the field. And you really did like that attention, that people kind of, I guess, reinforcing that you were attractive and giving you that validation that you didn't get when you were married.
Right. Because it was a sexless marriage. So I felt very unwanted. So it was nice to be wanted.
Yeah. So this interaction with this single male kind of gave you that same sense of energy. And so you hadn't felt that since we started dating.
Right.
So it was 10 years later, boom, you're jumpstart those hormones again, all of those feelings, and with a new attractive guy. Yeah.
I think it's challenging to allow myself to feel that with another couple, because I'm always very concerned about making sure the woman is comfortable. And I never want either partner to feel like they're being separated or feeling left out.
Right.
And it's tricky to go all in with those feelings when you're dating another couple or courting them in the pool at a resort, because it's like you never really know if both of them are on the same page, and it's challenging.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the dynamics with relationships with other couples, with two couples interacting, you really are kind of being very delicate because they have their dynamic and you don't know what it is, and you have your dynamic, and so you want to be respectful of whatever that relationship is. So we haven't experienced a lot of that NRE with another couple. I think the closest we had was...
You've had it twice that I know, because it always triggers me. Because usually what happens, and this is where...
Talk about this, because I'm curious what you think happened.
This is where it goes sideways a little bit, where you're making a connection with the female and you're just making out. It's like all on. You're just like, right?
Yes.
All in it.
Yeah.
And I'm standing there. Right. And so me and the mister are like, wow, they're really going at it. So it's awkward. I feel awkward in that position. So I'm always really reserved about going all in with the guy if I'm feeling it, because I don't want the missus to feel awkward.
It's interesting that you kind of quantify or qualify that interaction, because I know exactly which interaction that was. That was NRE. I hadn't thought of it that way. I had thought of it as just being a really hot makeout session, and I didn't really, it wasn't anything past that. So for me, it was very surface level. It didn't have those kind of deeper things. It was just a hot moment, and I was just in it. I was living in the moment.
Yeah, it looks like NRE to me, because it is a make-out session.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's the trick with other couples seeing their spouse, their significant other, having that level of involvement, that level of like intensity, triggering the thoughts that it's NRE and that they're like having feelings for that person because it is such an intimate, deep, intense moment.
Right.
But see, I don't think I had those feelings. I definitely didn't think about her afterwards. I thought about the interaction for sure, but I wasn't like, she wasn't like always on my mind. I wasn't, away from it. We'll talk about the next guy, the next single guy, and some of the feelings that you had there, because I think it started to tread into that. You started to think about him all the time. You started to, anyway.
Yes. And so we'd had another date with another single guy and brought him home, and we filmed that session.
Yeah. It was
oh my God.
Fucking hot.
It was so hot.
It was really hot.
So much footage of that interaction. It was so fun. It was so organic. And I love to just sit and watch those because
it's hot.
It's fucking hot. I love watching myself have sex. I actually love watching myself masturbate after I've recorded it. It turns me on.
It turns me on too.
Yeah. So I'm overly thankful for that footage. So even if y'all don't have a fan account, just do it for fun.
Oh yeah.
Because you can keep it and rewatch it. So that guy, because it was so good and so intense, and he was so attentive, and it's different. I thought, wow, okay, I want to do that again. I'm like, again. It's like a Disney ride.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I remember that night pretty vividly. Like, we tried a whole bunch of stuff. He was very laid back. He was easygoing. He was like, I'm here on this is your dime, so to speak. Like, yep. This is all for you. Use me however you want to use me. And we had a good time. We had a great time that night. What were some of your feelings afterwards though? Because we had that one interaction, and then we met him at a bar. A local downtown bar.
Yes.
And it was like a blues night or a jazz night. I can't remember which band was playing, but great music. We were sitting there drinking. I think his brother was there, so it was a little interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, what was going?
So that was different because he's on my left, you're on my right. He's cuddling up next to me. He's standing, so he's getting closer to me. We're on bar stools, so you and I can't be like as close because he's standing. So he's snuggling up next to me. He's holding my hand and lacing his hand in between my fingers. So it feels like a new relationship, right? The touching, the things that people do when you're dating. He was nuzzling my neck. And at some point, and then he asks me what I'd like to drink. So these are all very dating-like behaviors.
Yeah.
So it's starting to feel good, but it's also a bit odd because you're my husband and you're sitting right here. Like, that usually these are separate boxes in my life. And both boxes are now blending, which is a bit challenging. And then, did you want to say something?
Yeah, and I was going to say, when we first started dating and we started talking about swinging and the whole concept of kind of being on the hunt for other partners, for you was that's outside the box. I'm in relationship box now.
Yep.
And that box is cougar box where I'm out hunting.
Yes.
And you had a really hard time going, I can do both. And I tried to reassure you a bunch of times. And they're like, look, it's okay. Like, I get it. Like, you've got to be a little bit in predator mode, so to speak.
Right.
To like hook up with another couple.
Yeah.
And that's not threatening to me because we're doing it together. So like, we're both doing it. And I know a lot of people in the community don't like the term hunting or vanilla hunting or any of those things because it does sound predatory, but you know what we're talking about. It's just that in active pursuit of new sexual encounters, new couples to interact with.
Right. And so then as the evening's progressing, we're flirting more. And at one point, I believe you went to the bathroom. We're going to leave. There was a discussion about, would you like to come over?
Right.
And so when you were in the restroom, he came up to me, helped me with my coat on and pulled me close. And we were just making out right there in the bar. Just the world stopped. I didn't care who saw. I didn't know who was around. I didn't care if I was blocking traffic. We're just making out.
Right.
And it was really hot.
Yeah.
It was really hot. And so then we're like, all right, back at the house. See you in 20 minutes. we go. I remember we got in a car and I'm like, oh my God, are we doing this? Oh, I'm so nervous. I'm excited. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. So then we get to the house and we had another really great time. We didn't choose to film that episode, but it was fine. We didn't need to film all of them. And then I found myself, because I don't know how far apart they were. Maybe 2 weeks in between each one.
Yeah, it was like a week or 2 weeks. It was pretty close together.
Yeah. And so now I found myself thinking about that exchange frequently. Like, it was on my mind and I couldn't wait for the next exchange. And so I go on walks and I think about it. I was working. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it all the time.
Yes.
And that started to bother me after about 2 to 3 days. And I thought, it's going to dissipate. It's going to dissipate. I'll be fine. After 3 days, we were on a walk and I remember telling you, I was nervous to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, because you didn't know how I was going to react to that. And we'd never had this happen before. So this was all new territory.
Oh, yeah.
Completely new territory.
Yeah. And so I said, this is bothering me because I can't stop thinking about that exchange, and I want to do it again. And it's disconcerting to me because it feels like it's interrupting my life with you. It's
Right.
in our box now. It's in my house because it's in my head.
Right.
It's not separate. It's not out at a resort. It's not out at a party.
It's not an experience. It's this reoccurring memory feeling that's going on over and over again.
Yeah.
In a sense, you've triggered all of those hormones. You've triggered all those behaviors. And so now your brain, like any good addiction,
Yes.
wants to keep doing that over and over again because it feels really good.
The hormones are incredibly powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And it was altering my mind, definitely. And I knew that. Thank God. And I remember telling you, thank God I know what I know about hormones and my mental capabilities and my emotions and all the things I know about myself to know enough to go, that's okay. Those are just the hormones talking.
Right.
That's not real. This too will pass.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the podcast, your research on all the hormones when we were doing the hormone replacement therapy episodes really gave both of us a solid grounding in terms of the impact of hormones and all of the, physiochemical reactions that are going on.
And my own experience with some of those hormones.
Right.
The progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone.
Oh, absolutely.
All of those.
Triggering stuff.
Really, really powerful.
And we've talked about in previous episodes about this kind of like addiction with hormones and that kind of like high that you have. And in a lot of respects, it can even influence your ability to consent. So hormones are really powerful. If you put hormones on the same level as substances like alcohol and ecstasy and any of the other drugs that have an impairing effect on your ability to consent, that says a lot about how strong hormones are.
Oh, yeah.
Hormones, heroin, right there. Let me just...
The 2 H's. Yeah, and these are why psychologist only prescribes. They're trained in that way. They start you off at really, really low doses. Say you're suffering from depression, they'll start you really, really low, and they step you up slowly. Why? Because you need to ease into those changes.
Right.
And they take you off very, very slowly. My ex-partner was severely depressed, and they stepped him up very slow and brought him down very, very slow. It was very calculated because you can't mess around with that stuff.
Yeah. Rapid shifts in hormones can have a really crazy effect on your brain and your physiology.
100%. Yes.
So what's the solution to all this? Besides listening to our podcast and learning all about hormones and what's going on, what else?
Well, the solution to all of this is having some realization and awareness about that these are not true feelings. These are just your hormones. And have the appreciation that for yourself and from somebody else that this feels good. This type of attention does feel good.
Right.
Especially when you've been in a long-term relationship. It's nice. People recognize different things in you. People will recognize different things in Ed than what I recognize in you on a daily basis or have in the past. And it feels good to hear those things because we're people, we're humans. We like strokes and pets and acknowledgments.
Yeah.
And then make sure you're talking about it with your partner too. That realization and awareness, bring it forward, have a talk.
Yeah. And I think this particular realization / awareness and these specific points really speak to why we don't recommend swinging for every couple. So if your relationship is struggling, if you're having some issues, if you're not communicating well, if there's kind of underlying stuff, these hormones, this NRE is the wedge that will crack the rest of that foundation.
Oh, yeah.
So
we've seen it happen with
100%.
other couples.
We've seen it a lot happen.
A lot.
Not like a majority, but we've seen it enough times with couples who were like, you know, that weird couple in the corner that you see at the parties and you're like, they're not communicating very well, or he's always off flirting with somebody else and you never see the wife around.
Or they swap. Husbands and wives, we've seen them swap. Permanently.
Like permanently swap. Right. Yes.
Like they got divorced and remarried. They're others.
Right. Very much letting the hormones take
Which
control.
really messed with my brain because I was like, wait, because you see them a year later, right? At the next event. And you're like, wait, weren't you with, I know you were with him and he was with her. And they're like, oh yeah, we switched. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah. So it's real. It's definitely real. The other technique that we'll throw out is really taking time away from that relationship. So when we were talking about how frequent that interaction had been, having a bigger break in between to kind of let the hormones dip a little bit and reconnect with your partner really does help. It kind of evens things out and you get you're not high anymore, right? You let the high dwindle.
Yeah, exactly. And create rules between the both of you. Like maybe that is one of your rules to say, hey, after we have a single male over, no more single males for another month or 2 weeks.
Or different single males and not the same single male.
Right.
Keep the rotation going.
Yeah. And that's the important part is identifying how you react. Because once you know that, you just work with it. And then you have that communication with your partner and you work with those feelings and emotions because it doesn't mean you have to take it completely off the table. Although some people do. Right. We met a woman who said at a party, she asked what our play style, we told her, and she right up front said, I'm here to flirt and get the party started, but I don't play with anybody because I get emotionally attached too quickly. So I don't do that anymore, but I just love being here. And so if you're okay with me flirting with you, that's what I'll do. Right. But just please know that I'm not here to play with anybody. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really great.
Yeah, that was solid self-awareness.
Right there. Yeah, I loved that. I knew exactly what she was about. I knew exactly where she stood, and I knew how to approach her and what to expect.
Yeah. The other thing that I was going to talk about with rules, trying to set rules up to say you can't have feelings for somebody or you won't develop feelings for somebody as a rule isn't really a good rule.
No.
That's not a thing that you can control. Like the drugs that we were talking about, hormones are not something that someone can intellectually control.
No.
So it's going to happen. You are going to have those feelings, especially with extended or prolonged contact with someone or someone who's susceptible to those feelings or those hormones. Right. So be realistic with your rules in terms of which things you can govern and control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also what you could do is seek out some of the counselors that are sex positive, non-monogamous counselors.
Right.
They really have great tips and tools to help guide you through that dynamic. And you can book a session. Doesn't have to be, one. It could be one session, could be two, whatever. But they can help with that, and they can give you something that maybe you didn't think about.
Yeah, counselors are really good, even if you're not having a problem, they're really good at giving you tools to be able to prepare for stuff or work through issues. So it doesn't have to be like a marriage counselor where you're on the verge of divorce or you're breaking up or anything like that. It's really a good third party objective position with really good experience and tools to be able to help you to sort things out even before they happen.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you can always decide if it isn't for you. Maybe you just attach too quickly and that's your style. That's how you grew up. You know that about yourself, like that woman. And she just said, nope, I can't do that.
Too risky. Can't do it.
Too risky. I need to stay focused on my primary because I attach too quickly to others. So I just don't engage in sex with other people. So knowing yourself really well and knowing what works is huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in conclusion, NRE is fun. It's exciting. It's amazing. And it can be addicting. But having that awareness about your feelings and what's going on with you, communicating that with your partner is huge. Those feelings are going to be motivated by the hormones. So just know that. And they're not true feelings.
Yeah. And despite the scary part about catching feels and that new relationship energy can be dangerous and risky, it's also really fun and exciting. And if you temper it with a lot of communication with your partner, it can really boost your kind of sex life in the day-to-day.
Yes.
So it's a great tool to use in your own relationship.
Yes, that is true.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you guys joining us. Don't forget your homework. Tell a friend about our show. And if you want, leave a review or comment. We really like that. And it helps with the algorithm to kick us up the chart. And we can always use more viewers because we like passing this information on to other people in the community.
And I know what you're going to say next. You're going to say you can also leave us a voicemail at 916-538-0482. But don't just leave us a voicemail. Call us and ask us a question. Tell us an issue. Give us a problem. Tell us a situation where you want us to chime in on it and answer your question. We'll put you on the show. We will also change your voice. If you don't want your real voice heard, just let us know. And then we'll put your question on our show and we'll answer it. It's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it'd be great. We'd love to hear from you. So please call us, leave us a message, and we'll let everybody hear your question.
Yes, you can
inspire
be on the show. So, in closing, keep learning, keep growing,